Hey everyone, it's Hairyfrankfurt and I'm a crossfitting runner who eats fruits and vegetables and isn't in pain all the time, so I figured we should probably talk about that a little bit because in my last video I explained that I had surgery, and in this video I'm going to be explaining all of that. And you should subscribe because I'm going to be uploading a week of workouts video for you. So like, lots happening. Let's jump into the questions. Okay, so starting with the first question, which is what is sciatica? Sciatica is basically a term referring to any injury to the sciatic nerve or any pain that is caused by the sciatic nerve. So this is the major nerve that runs through the spinal column and goes down your limbs. You'll often find that sciatic pain will feel like a shooting sensation, or you'll lose sensation. You'll have nerve pain, which if you are confused as to what nerve pain is, so the funny bone is actually a nerve, and that is the feeling of nerve pain where it's like it shoots down your arm or it shoots down your leg, or you'll get numbness, tingling, sensations that don't really make sense. Like I had pain in the side of my leg. The location of your nerve pain will also help dictate where the injury in the spine is, because the input and the output will correlate somehow. I'm not a surgeon, so for me my pain was along the outside of my right leg, generally in my shin and around the ankle as well. So on the outside part of my shin I had like pain, tingling, numbness, a weird vibrating sensation which I couldn't quite explain to anyone that doesn't understand sciatic pain. And I also had what I referred to as toothache in my butt, which sounds a lot worse than it is. Well, subjective. The feeling of toothache, obviously your bones can't have pain, so it's the nerve in your tooth that hurts. And I was having that in my butt, which is like the glute, because I'm gonna get a bit technical here. The sciatic nerve kind of endings in your spine all conjoin at the top of your leg, your femur, and that big head of the sciatic nerve is where I was having a lot of my pain. A little confusing for a person who doesn't know that it's sciatic pain. I thought it was muscular pain and I was continuing to foam roll it. Don't foam roll your sciatic nerve, it does not help. So that's a little bit about the sciatic injury. Sciatica can be caused by slipped discs, bulging discs, other injury to the spine. Anytime that the nerve is touched or it pinched or impinged upon by something in the spinal column, that will generally cause nerve pain down the leg or in other ways. So for me in particular, I had a herniated disc which was prolapsing onto my sciatica. As I mentioned in the last video, I had a complete obstruction of the sciatic nerve, which is why the pain was quite extreme, and I had very little control over my leg as well. People with sciatica or nerve injuries will also find a sensation called leg drop, where you actually can't control your leg or your leg can't hold you. Kind of terrifying. That's all depicted in the first video, so I won't go over that too much more. Speaking of the bulging disc situation, let's talk about the second question, which is what causes a bulging disc? So a bulging disc, as I mentioned in my last video, is basically where the soft membrane in between each of the bones in your spine actually just bulges out or herniates out into the spinal column, because it's like having a pillow with two bricks. So anytime you move the bricks in a way that is not connected, am I making any sense right now? Let's say you have two bricks and in between these two bricks is a pillow. The pillow is obviously the weak point of this structure, but it prevents the bricks from touching each other. That is what your disc is in between the bones of your spine. So every time you move your spine, if you are curving your spine or changing the amount of curvature in your spine, the individual bones, or bricks in this case, will be moving like this. Because it's a pillow, if you imagine the softness being pressed upon harder out here, the stuffing is going to go to the other end. These discs are encased in like a membrane of sorts, which generally can stretch and expand and come back like a gel insert for a shoe. They will not kind of stay firm, and that's the entire beauty of having these discs, is it allows you to do things with your spine without it being like a full bone. The only thing is that the more you use them incorrectly, or if there's a large impact from a car accident or a fall, if you fall on your spine in a way that moves the actual spine, if you do that abruptly, or if you just do it over a prolonged amount of time, the membrane in there on a long injury will weaken and then deteriorate, and then for a car accident, you can imagine that amount of shock. You can often find discs that just herniate on an instant. The one caveat I will put in here is that a bulging disc doesn't necessarily mean sciatica. You can also bulge a disc from sneezing, by the way. If you are particularly weak, or if you move poorly throughout the day and then you sneeze, that is enough pressure to actually herniate a disc. That's not to say that having a herniated disc is an injury, because you can have people who get an MRI, found out they have a bulging disc, but it's not causing them any pain, and and you can have people who have extreme pain and no bulging disc. In this case, one doesn't always mean the other, but if you have both, it generally means that one is causing the other. Okay, so that explains what sciatica is and what a bulging disc is and why the two are related, but they're different things. When I first started experiencing sciatica, I believe the toothache in the butt sensation that I told you about earlier, that originally started back in high school. It would come and go. It wasn't a persistent thing, and I truly think that that was just like a little red flag when I was moving incorrectly or wearing poor shoes or walking or carrying things incorrectly. Because in high school, I used to carry around literally all of my textbooks and wear shoes that did not fit me. So I was walking funny and carrying too much weight. So it makes sense that I would have a little bit of back pain. But that, like I said, was not a persistent, consistent, prolonged, chronic pain situation. It came up again when I had finished high school, when I was sleeping in a really terrible bed, and I thought I was having hip pain because the pain was in the glute area radiating out towards my hip. Because it was coming out from that way, I thought it must be my hip. I was not aware that that was actually my sciatic nerve, and I went and had a hip x-ray done. Obviously they didn't find anything because an x-ray won't show you the nerves, and it wasn't my hip that was actually injured. Once the bed was resolved and I kind of was moving more because I was also a little unfit around that time, the pain did subside. And then I started training, and I had a personal trainer who gave terrible cues, and I believe it was a combination of hack squats with poor form, leg press with poor form, and back extensions. We were doing weighted back extensions and moving poorly, and at some point I, on a leg press at some stage, had a serious pain and knew that my back was sore and had to hobble on out of there. And then from that point on, I had pretty severe pain. I was limping a little bit, and when I went to get into the leg press machine, my leg would just shake. So another thing with nerve pain is that it will basically just send signals to do things and you're not aware of it. Like, at no point did I say that my leg should shake, and it was. So that was around 2014, 2015, and I stopped being a personal trainer as a result. So that, I think, is the most concise explanation for my injury. It was the fact that I was moving poorly. I probably didn't have correct form in my day-to-day activities, and if you don't have appropriate movement, you will find that you're moving incorrectly, and as soon as you go to load that or you do something quickly like a sneeze or a fall or something, you can just injure yourself. Basically what happened with me. It was exercise with poor form, which the poor form was kind of perpetuated throughout my daily movements. It just kind of all came to it. It was the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak. So with that being said, that is how I injured myself. Let's move into how these injuries are treated. So let's talk about the third point that I want to bring up, which is treatment. Now, I will just jump in here quickly and say that spine pain or back pain, spine injuries, these are so common, and you will find that a lot of people just kind of learn to live with it. A lot of people will suffer with back pain and think, I'll just go get a massage, or I'll just go see a physio, or I'll just go see a chiro. And a lot of those things are helpful depending on where the back pain is stemming from. If your back pain is caused by tight muscles, then having a massage to relax the muscles may resolve the pain. If your back pain is caused by not having a physio, manipulate your leg for an hour a week at $100 something a week. Maybe that will solve it. Can you tell I'm a bit cynical? If your back pain is being caused by an uncracked back for some reason, maybe that will solve it. If your back pain is caused by excessive weight, then maybe just diet and exercise will solve that problem. Poor circulation can cause it, so sometimes if you go and move more, you will resolve the issue. But the long and short of what I'm trying to get at here is that it really depends on what is causing the pain. So for me, like I said, it was the fact that I was moving poorly, which means that I need to have that movement trained correctly in a way that is safe for my back. And I also had just like a shitload of disc matter all over my spinal cavity. So like, we gotta get rid of that, and then maybe we can move, and then maybe we can stop this from happening again, right? Like, that just, I don't know why that's so difficult to understand. A lot of people get back pain and then go and see a physio, and if that works for you, I am absolutely not knocking that it works for some people. Because like I said, if the back pain is caused by not having a physio, then having a physio might help the back pain. But if you have an injury, manipulating it for an hour every week or 2 hours a week isn't gonna get rid of the injury. Like, Is anyone else following my logic? So the first time that I had this injury, I had a friend who was working for the surgeon that I saw, which I mentioned in the last video. So the surgeon that I saw actually has his own rehabilitation program called NeuroHab. Neuro because it's referring to the nerves, and Hab referring to the Hab part of the word rehab. But essentially the rehab program teaches you how to move in a way that doesn't load your spine. Like I mentioned before, if your bricks are doing this, or just anything that is not good for cushions, are we back on the analogy? Are we following? If you're doing something with the bricks of your spine that is compromising the shape and size and placement of the cushion in your spine, then you're just going to continue to injure yourself, either in that place or another place. So he has a movement program that ensures you move with a neutral spine and load up the muscles of your legs and your glutes so that you're not actually using your spine to lift things. If you don't do this with your spine, the cushion stays in place and all's hunky-dory. So the rehab program that I did is called NeuroHab, and then this leads into the next question, which is, who did I see? Spill the tea. What surgeon did I get? So I saw Dr. David Johnson simply because he has this rehab program. The first time that I did it, it actually resolved my back pain entirely. I think I had one major flare-up, I did this in 2016 and continued through to 2017, I believe. I had one major flare-up, and then after that I was able to continue training, and I moved on to just training on my own. However, that didn't last very long, and I ended up re-injuring or having a flare-up that just didn't go away in 2019? 2020, something like that. So I saw Dr. David Johnson, and I will jump in here and explain the actual referral process for this because it's really freaking complicated. Generally what you want to do is see your doctor, explain the pain that you have, explain the symptoms that you're experiencing, and they will order an MRI or a CT of the back to see if there's anything there, because you've obviously mentioned that you have the symptoms. So now we need to find out if there's a structural cause for the symptoms or if it's something else. This is where I got caught up the first time, this most recent instance, because I saw my doctor and I explained my symptoms and I said, I know I have sciatica. I know it's caused by a bulging disc. I just want to get assessed to see if this is something that can be operable, or just like see if I can get a referral through to this rehab program. She did in-office assessment of my spine. So this doctor basically sat me down and said, okay, let's run through some tests to see if this is what you're suffering with. She ran a few tests, but every time I couldn't do a movement, that was considered a pass. And then she lay me on the table and palpated my back, which is basically just feeling around to see if there's anything obvious. And she said, oh, you don't have sciatica, you're just really tight on the right side, so get a massage. And this is like the third or fourth time that I've had an allied health professional tell me that I need a massage. And again, the problem isn't that I have tight muscles, it's the fact that I had an injury. The tight muscles were a side effect of me having the injury and not the other way around. So that was a bit of a slap in the face. So what I did is I went and saw I called the office for the neurosurgeon directly, which is something you can do, and they ordered the CT to get sent to him. And by the time I had done that, my doctor had called me for a follow-up and I'd had my surgery. So generally what you want to do is go to your doctor, explain your symptoms, have them assess you, have them scan you to see what's there, and then they will follow up accordingly with like whoever you need to see. Alternatively, you can just go straight to the surgeon that you want to see and they'll do the same thing anyways, right? I am like using a lot of breath. All right, so now you know who I saw. Now let's talk about how much it cost. Because I did in the last video mention that I went and got this done privately and I didn't have private health cover. I believe in Australia, private health cover will actually pay for the entire surgery, but if it's a pre-existing injury, you need to be on the wait list for a year. I didn't have a year. I couldn't walk and I wanted to exercise and I wanted to not be in like 8 out of 10 pain all the time. So I just decided, fuck it, paying for it. It was $20,000. Hear me out. As I mentioned in the last video, you do have to pay each of the individual places. So the anaesthetist, the hospital, the surgeon, and I think there was another fee. I think those were the main three. Because that $20,000 includes 2 nights stay in the hospital for me, they refunded a large amount of what I paid. And then you go to Medicare and they give you a refund as well for some of it. So it's not $20,000 full stop, end of story. There are ways you can get rebates. And if you have private health insurance, that will actually pay for it all, I believe, but talk to your professionals. The other thing is, I believe that if you don't go private, if you don't elect to have the surgery, it might be covered. But like I mentioned to my surgeon when I was doing the assessment, he said, well, do you want just anyone doing it? And to be honest, no, I did not want just anyone doing it. And I don't shame anyone who has surgery done by anyone, because it is entirely up to you. I just personally wanted this particular neurosurgeon because it's his thing, and I knew that he had the rehab program after the fact, and I trusted him to know that I did need the surgery and that he could do the surgery, and that the surgery would be good enough for me to go do the rehab. So that is who I saw and how much it cost. Now we'll move into how do you prepare for it. The preparation mainly was making sure everything was clean in my apartment because I wasn't allowed to clean. You want to make sure that you're using a tea tree shower gel on the area. That was mentioned in my surgeon's notes. He gave me like a whole preparation thing. He mentioned using tea tree shower gel because it's actually antimicrobial. I don't really kind of get the point because they're going to disinfect the area anyways. I guess it's probably important, but then my aunt who works in day surgery had never heard of it before. So I really don't know. That's how I prepared for it. They want you to wear loose baggy clothing that won't actually touch on the wound. I didn't know where the wound was going to be, so I just kind of shot in the dark with that one. They want you to make sure that you kind of have things prepared so that you're not doing anything, because after the surgery, as you saw in that video, I couldn't do anything. You don't have the ability to get up, do things, bend, all of that. You want to make sure that you're prepared in that sense, that you've got someone to look after you. Oh, you also need to get a whole bunch of blood tests done. So you need to get blood tests done because they need to check you for things. I don't know. When you go in, they weigh you to make sure that they're giving you the right amount of anesthetic. Big sorry to the body positivity movement. You do actually need to get weighed when you're getting a surgery, because I personally didn't want them giving me a full dose of anesthetic because I was not a full dose of person. And I don't want to wake up in the surgery, so I don't want them giving me a half dose or a full dose when I need more. So like, anyway. Okay, the next question that I had was, what was the rehabilitation? The NeuroHab program is 2 nights a week for I think 8 weeks. So this program is run a few times a year, and you generally want to be waiting a few weeks after you've had the surgery to make sure that you can actually move enough to do it. They don't get you in there doing full exercises. It's a group program based around the hip hinge movement so that you can learn how to move correctly in your day-to-day life. Those were also the exercises that I got when I left the hospital. So after the surgery, I got seen by the hospital's physiotherapist who helped me with walking and going up and down stairs. The physiotherapist also gave me like a resistance band so that I could do some hamstring glute presses, kind of. It's not like a leg press, it's a leg press against the bed using the resistance band. They were kind of fun, I guess, difficult, challenging, I don't know. I wasn't sold on them. And then I got seen by my surgeon's exercise physiologist. So the surgeon works in a hospital and also runs his own gym, and at that gym he employs exercise physiologists, physiotherapists, nurses, and all of that. So this is where the bridging comes in, and this is where it gets really confusing, but he had his exercise physiologist come in and she taught me how to hip hinge from a bed and to do some small tiny little baby hip hinges in the real world as well. So a lot of my early rehab was just hinging, and light walks just around the house and stuff. That obviously progresses as you go through. I saw the exercise physiologist I think once a week until the program actually began, and we were just working on ensuring that I was recovering safely and hinging safely. And then by the time we moved into the program, I was already top of the class by the time the program started, by the way. Like, obviously, like, duh. Who do you think this is? I will also leave a link to my surgeon's YouTube channel where he explains it a lot. So if you don't understand my explanation, you can watch his videos as well. There's a lot of videos about pain science and other things which were taught throughout the program as well. So not only do they teach you how to hip hinge and then progressively move into hip hinging into a deadlift and then hinging into a lunge so that you can pick things up off the ground. All these functional movements that you need in your everyday life were taught in this program, as well as pain science. So that's where you kind of get to question, like, okay, I'm having pain. Is that because I've hurt myself, or is that because my body is just used to being in pain? And that was another thing that I wanted to mention. It's really, really important that whenever you have any kind of surgery, that you actually take the painkillers that are prescribed to you, because as soon as you start being in pain, your brain thinks that it's not safe. After a while, your brain just assumes that that is what is supposed to happen at that time or doing that thing. So if you're lying down and it hurts you, your brain will eventually go, I'm not sure that we should be doing this. I don't know that this is right. which is difficult because you need to sleep. So I think that explains all of the rehabilitation, all of the pain science, all of the injury explanation, all of the rehab explanation. The question that I wanted to answer before I go back to the list, the infamous excited for list, the last question is, was it worth it? 100% yes, absolutely. Duh. I couldn't walk before, like I limped into that surgery. I couldn't carry the bag. Remember the bag that I was packing in the last video? Yeah, I couldn't carry it into the surgery room. Not that you walk in, but like I was so excited to be lying down, and lying down hurt me. Sitting in the waiting room hurt me. Standing hurt. Everything that I did hurt. So was it worth it? 100% absolutely. Like there's no, there were a few times going into it where I was like, is it really necessary? Is it really necessary? But then when I had the surgery and the pain was gone, I was like, thank fuck. It's like having a smoke alarm, right? And it's going off all day, every day. Eventually you just want it off. And then it's off and my mood skyrocketed. I started doing things that I couldn't do even before I was in pain. That's kind of cool. I'm a runner now. I'm doing CrossFit now, so there are so many things. I can walk, I can sit, I can meditate without being in pain. I'm not miserable because I'm not in pain. My mood is better, my affect, like everything in life is better because I'm not in pain. So was it worth it? Absolutely. I'm about a year post-op now, and sometimes I will get a bit of nerve pain, but like truthfully, I push it with exercise, and I was also in pain for multiple years. So there's probably actual damage to my nerve. I'm not stressed, I can still move properly, and I still do my CrossFit classes. So once I finished the NeuroHab, they have a more difficult program, which is a small class of people who do basically CrossFit. I call it CrossFit Light, diet CrossFit, but like a smaller version and a more hands-on version of CrossFit exercises where you're supervised by either an exercise physiologist, an occupational therapist, or a physiotherapist. And those classes are very difficult, but amazing, and they help my mood, and like all of everything is better because of the surgery. I'm not saying that that's gonna be the same for you because it's a mixed bag with surgeons. The injury itself, it's hard for me to say that you should get it, but I know that if I had to do it again, I absolutely would. I might have done my rehab a little bit slower. I might have done less sooner. Yeah, I might have done my recovery a little bit differently, but I'm 100% happy with it. So that's that. Now let's go through the list and see the things that I can do now that I have had the surgery. Okay, so the bullet journal that I was using at the time of my surgery, I have this list of things that I'm excited for. So the first one, being able to put on pants, shoes, and socks without pain. I can do that. Being able to walk, run, and jump. Obviously I can do that. Yoga, I can do that. Longer time sitting in meditation, I can do that. Circuit training, I do that. High intensity interval training, I do that now. Weights, I do that now. Balancing out my physique, it's so funny, I'm actually doing this. I'd forgotten that this was in there. I'm doing it anyways because a lot of what I did was limp, which meant that my quad on my right side was a lot stronger than on my left. I'm just trying to balance out things that don't make sense. And I'm doing that because of the injury and the fact that I no longer have pain, so I can. The next thing is easy sleep. I was in so much pain that it was difficult for me to get to sleep and difficult for me to stay asleep, but now I can 100% confirm I sleep easy. The next thing is booty workouts. Oh, yes. So, yes, I have been training my glutes, which is not something I've ever been able to do, actually. My glutes used to not fire. My glutes don't fire the same. They fire differently. So I am trying to, that's part of the balancing out my physique, but I can train my butt. So there's that. And then finally, sneezing and coughing without pain. I can do that. So that kind of explains everything. This was another behemoth of a video and I apologize, but I thank you for watching it. And if you want to see my week of workouts video where I go through booty training and I go through running and I go through CrossFit and I go through my weights, then make sure you're subscribed because I really enjoy doing it and filming it is gonna be fun. I think I've already filmed it, to be honest with you. I just gotta edit it, but I wanted to do this one next. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and you will see me in the next video, which is one of these. Okay, bye.